Oliver and Company is a 1988 American animated musical film produced by Walt Disney Feature and released on November 18th, 1988 by Walt Disney Pictures. What's good is a Boydude reviews, and today we're going to review the 27th Disney animated feature film in the Disney canon, Oliver and Company, based on the Charles Dickens novel Oliver Twist, which has been adapted many other times for the big screen. In the film, of the Oliver Twist tale, Oliver, voiced by Joey Lawrence, is an orphaned kitty taken in by a gang of thieving dogs led by Caliver Carnane Dodger, voiced by Billy Joel, and owned by down and out pickpocket faggon Dom DeLucy. While pulling a job in the streets of New York City, Oliver winds up being adopted by a rich girl voiced by Natalie Gregory, who's Jenny, and landing on Easy Street. But through a series of events, a loan shark threatens the peace new agreement. And following the release of Black Cauldron, Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg held a pitch meeting with the animation staff in which story artist Pete Young pitched the idea to adapt Oliver Twist with dogs. The pitch was quickly approved and the film quickly went into production under the working title Oliver and Dodger. Released on the same day as The Land Before Time, Oliver and Company was a box office success, but it received mixed reviews from film critics. The film was re-released in the US, Canada and United Kingdom on March 29, 1996, and then on home video later on. And the film literally didn't do as well because it was released on the exact same day as Land Before Time, and everyone knows The Land Before Time was just an amazing masterpiece. That was Don Bluth's film, and literally Roger Ebert, he did give this film a thumbs down, saying that it isn't as amazing as like other films, and personally I do kind of agree. But let me talk about the positives first, because those are other people's opinions, to be honest with you. The positives of this film, I have to admit, is definitely the addition of musical elements in this film. Winnie the Pooh was the last film to actually have songs in the film, to have like some sort of a soundtrack. But even that film didn't really have many long songs, and that film I wouldn't even consider to be a movie. It was just a series of little stories. Jungle Book was the last fully length film to have songs in it, and it was a great addition to bring back musical elements in this film. And I really did like some of the songs. All the songs are really great. From Once Upon a Time in New York City, where we see Oliver trying to survive on the streets. It's really heartbreaking to see him just like walking around the streets of New York, no one really caring for him, and it's just so sad. And then you have like songs like Streets of Gold. They got that big Billy Joel song, Why Should I Worry, and that really adorable song sung by Penny, Good Company, and all the songs are really great. Even that one song sung by Penny's dog, or I forgot, was actually really good. What was that song called? Perfect Isn't Easy, I think. It's such a sassy song, and well, that entire soundtrack is just absolutely amazing. I was really loving the soundtrack. It was, all the songs were just great and just hitting the spot. Very 80s-esque music, and it suits it well. This movie is set in modern time. It is set in the 1980s, and it's a very modern film. For this film to be released at the time, it was very modern, set in 1980s New York. And yeah, I think it was really great. The story, I have to admit, I quite liked it. I did actually like it a little bit more than other people. I didn't like the whole thing with Oliver trying to survive. This cat trying to like be a dog in a way and just living out on New York City. And then I also like the voice acting. I think they did a pretty damn good job. And all of those are just also recognizable, and they all have their interesting like character designs and personality. Dodger's like the main character, the main dude, the leader of the pack. You got Tito, this chihuahua, who's just so feisty and upbeat, voiced by Cheech Marin. Then you've got Einstein, this Great Dane, and he's kind of like the grandfather of the bunch in a way, and he's voiced by Richard Mulligan. And then you got Francis who's this like British dog who's very posh and he's into art and theatre, voiced by Rusheen Lee Brown. And then you've got Cheryl Lee Ralph, who voices Ruth Point, who voices Rita, I mean. And yeah, she's the only female girl dog in the group, but she gives a certain sophistication to the bunch, and oh, just absolutely, they're all so recognizable and great as well, and yeah, also the main guy, I think his name is Fagin. He's the kind of like the dog. He's kind of like the pet owner guy who looks after all these dogs, and they're his only friends. And I do like all these characters. You know, they're all so unique. Even the villain's quite interesting. You know, he just wants money from Fagin because he owes him money, and I do like the whole situation, the scenarios. I think it's really great. Penny is just this adorable kid, and she kind of reminds me a lot of that girl from Oliver and not Penny, it's Jenny. Penny was an Oliver and Company. Jenny is this one, and they do look alike. I have to admit, they're very similar, but I think she's adorable and cute, and just just cute. Also, the animation style is starting to look more like how movies did look in the Disney Renaissance, but with a little bit of a twist. I mean, it's not the backgrounds. I mean, I would say the character designs are starting to look a little bit like they're starting to favor a bit more towards the Disney Renaissance era, but I feel like maybe it's still using some of like the Xerox process with like some of like the animal designs, and there's a lot of 3D animation used in this movie, I have to admit, which I think kind of works, you know. I mean, they were experimenting at the time and I give them credit, yeah. The art style is also this very kind of like sketchy, very funky, punky looking style of New York City, you know. Like, if you go to a close up, it's very detailed, and then the further you look from the cityscape, the less detailed it looks, which I think kind of works as well. And honestly, I think it doesn't look too bad visually. I mean, it's very different compared to a lot of Disney films, but I think it's really great and really nice. Yeah, but now we come to my mixed aspect of the film, and my mixed aspect is possibly maybe the pacing of the film was a little bit off. Like, I feel like the editing isn't done really well, and it will edit from one scene to another, and it doesn't have a nice flow to it at times. And my only negative with this film is that it's not really a classic, and even the visual look, after a while, it does get very scratchy and rough looking, and it's not that appealing to look at, and it doesn't really hold up today, you know. The problem with this film is that being it set in the 80s, it's extremely dated, and I mean, golly, it's extremely dated. Films like Pinocchio, Snow White feel like timeless classics because they are set in this kind of like, you know, they're kind of set in the past, like, and I mean past, like they're set in an alternative past, you know, this fantasy past, you know, they're all fairy tales and all that, but this movie isn't a fairy tale, it's set in reality, it's set in a real world, and because it's set in a real world, it's gonna feel dated because this is an old time period, this is the 80s, and even hearing the soundtrack, I'm just like, ooh, this is so 80s. Even the words they say in the phrases does come out really 80s-ish, but in all honesty, I do not mind and I don't give it a crap. I love this film regardless. This movie is a classic to me. I've got it on DVD and I'm going to watch it again and again, and forevermore, we'll always watch it again and again. It's a really amazing film. It's got a lot of heart, it's got a lot of depth, and I really feel like this is when Disney was starting to really come on top, and it only gets better from here with their next film becoming the movie to finally bring their name back into the spotlight and being back on top. But thank you for watching this review. Please like, share this video, and comment down below and tell me what's your favorite Disney animated flick. With that said, thank you for watching. As always, a Boydude review signing out.